The wind howled across the old bridge, carrying with it the sound of rushing water below. Daniel, a struggling single dad, was heading home after working late at the diner. His shoes were worn, his hands calloused, and his heart heavy with worry about bills he couldn't pay. But what froze him in his tracks wasn't his own burden. It was the sight of a young woman standing on the edge of the railing, her hair whipping around her face, her knuckles white as she gripped the metal. "Don't jump," Daniel said firmly, his voice trembling yet filled with urgency. The girl turned slightly, her eyes red and hollow. "Why do you care? You don't even know me." Daniel's heart pounded. He thought of his 6-year-old daughter sleeping at home, the only reason he kept fighting every day. He stepped closer. "You're right. I don't know you. But I know what it feels like to stand on the edge, tired, hopeless, ready to let go. I also know someone out there would miss you more than you realize." Her lip quivered, but her body tilted dangerously forward. Without thinking, Daniel lunged and pulled her back into his arms. She collapsed against him, sobbing uncontrollably. In that moment, Daniel had no idea who she was or why fate had placed her in his path. But as her story unfolded, he would discover that saving her life was only the beginning, and that she was about to change his own in ways he never imagined. Daniel helped the girl sit on the cold pavement, keeping one hand gently on her shoulder as if afraid she might slip back toward the edge. She was shivering, not just from the wind, but from the weight of despair that clung to her. "I'm Daniel," he said softly, crouching down to meet her eyes. "What's your name?" She hesitated, brushing tears from her face. "Emily." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Emily," he repeated, steady and warm, as though saying her name anchored her to the world. "You don't know me your story, but if you want, I'll listen." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then words spilled out, about being alone in a city that never noticed her, about losing her job, her apartment, and even her friends who had drifted away. "No one cares if I live or die," she said bitterly. Daniel's chest tightened. He knew that feeling all too well. Nights when the fridge was empty, when bills piled higher than his courage, when his daughter asked for things he couldn't give. And yet, her smile, her laughter, the way she called him, Daddy, that was his reason to keep breathing. "You're wrong," Daniel said firmly. "People care more than you think. Sometimes, we just haven't met the ones meant to care yet." Emily looked at him, startled by the conviction in his tone. A man who looked as tired as the world itself was still holding on, still fighting. As headlights of a passing car swept across the bridge, Daniel stood and offered his hand. "Come on. It's freezing out here. I know a place where the coffee's cheap, but it's warm. Let's just sit and talk. No judgments." Hesitant, Emily reached out, and for the first time that night, chose life. The bell above the diner door jingled as Daniel pushed it open, guiding Emily inside. The place was quiet, nearly empty, with a faint smell of pancakes and coffee lingering in the air. Daniel slid into a booth and gestured for her to sit. A waitress who knew him well placed 2 mugs on the table. "Rough night?" she asked, eyeing Emily with concern. "Something like that," Daniel replied with a weary smile. Emily wrapped her hands around the steaming cup, staring into it as if the swirling coffee held the answers she didn't have. After a long silence, she whispered, "Why did you stop me? You don't even know me." Daniel leaned back, his face lined with exhaustion but softened by sincerity. "Because I know what it feels like to be invisible. To think no one notices your pain. But sometimes, a stranger noticing, that's enough to change everything." Her eyes filled again, and this time she didn't hold back. She told him about losing her scholarship, about nights sleeping in bus stations, about pretending she was fine when she wasn't. "I feel like a failure," she admitted, voice breaking. Daniel reached across the table. "Emily, surviving isn't failing. Trust me, I'm barely keeping things together myself. But my little girl, she's proof that even when life is cruel, there's still something worth living for." Emily looked up, surprised. "You're a single dad?" "Yeah," Daniel chuckled softly. "Not the best one, but I'm trying." For the first time that night, Emily managed a small smile. Something about his honesty cracked the wall around her heart. But just as Daniel thought the worst was behind them, Emily revealed something that made him grip his mug tighter. She wasn't just lost. She was running from someone. Emily's fingers tightened around the coffee mug as if it were her last shield against the world. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I didn't just lose everything. I left. I had to. Daniel frowned, sensing the weight behind her words. Left what? She glanced around the empty diner, her eyes darting nervously toward the door. My family. Or what's left of it. My stepfather, he's not a good man. When my mom passed, things got worse. He made home unbearable. Controlling, cruel, sometimes. She swallowed hard. Dangerous. Daniel's chest tightened. He thought of his daughter sleeping safely at home, and how the thought of anyone hurting her lit a fire of rage inside him. So you ran, he said quietly. Emily nodded. I thought I could build a new life, but without money or support. I ended up with nothing. Tonight, it felt like there was no way forward. Daniel studied her carefully. Beneath the exhaustion and fear, she was still so young, barely out of her teens. He felt a pang of responsibility, the kind he hadn't expected when he first saw her on that bridge. You don't deserve to carry this alone, he said firmly. Sometimes survival means asking for help, even if you think no one will give it. Emily looked at him, tears spilling freely now. Why are you being so kind to me? You have your own struggles. I can see it in your eyes. Daniel managed a tired smile. Because someone once helped me when I thought I couldn't go on. I wouldn't be here if they hadn't. Maybe tonight I'm just passing that forward. For the first time, Emily's shoulders eased, as if the burden she carried had finally begun to lift. By the time they left the diner, the night had grown colder. Daniel noticed Emily shivering in her thin sweater. He hesitated, then said, My apartment isn't much, but it's warm. You can crash on the couch tonight if you want. Safer than the streets. Emily's instinct was to refuse, but exhaustion overpowered pride. She nodded. When Daniel unlocked the small apartment door, a soft voice called out. Daddy? A little girl with tangled hair peeked from the bedroom. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. You're home! She ran into his arms, and Daniel scooped her up, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Hey, pumpkin! Shouldn't you be asleep? He teased. The child noticed Emily and tilted her head curiously. Who's that? Daniel smiled gently. This is Emily. She's a friend. Emily knelt down, unsure how to respond, but the little girl broke the silence by offering her favorite stuffed bunny. You can borrow him if you're sad. He makes me feel better. The gesture pierced straight through Emily's heart. No one had offered her kindness so freely in a long time. Tears welled in her eyes as she accepted the bunny. Thank you, she whispered. Later, as the girl drifted back to bed, Emily sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket Daniel had found. She glanced at the peeling paint on the walls, the mismatched furniture, the clutter of toys, and felt something unfamiliar. Warmth. Safety. Your daughter's amazing, Emily said softly. Daniel chuckled. She's the reason I keep fighting, even when it feels impossible. Emily hugged the stuffed bunny tighter. For the first time in months, she felt a flicker of hope, like maybe she, too, could find a reason to fight again. Morning sunlight streamed through the thin curtains, casting a golden glow over the small apartment. Emily stirred on the couch, the stuffed bunny still tucked under her arm. For the first time in months, she had slept without nightmares. Daniel was already in the kitchen, making oatmeal for his daughter before work. He glanced at Emily and smiled. Morning. Hope the couch wasn't too rough. Emily shook her head. It was perfect. Her voice cracked with gratitude she couldn't quite put into words. Daniel's daughter ran up, holding Emily's hand as though they'd been friends forever. Are you staying? She asked innocently. Emily froze, unsure how to answer. Daniel stepped in gently. Emily's figuring some things out, sweetheart. But she'll always be our friend. As they ate breakfast together, Emily felt something shift inside her. For so long, she believed she was invisible, unwanted, disposable. Yet here she was, welcomed into the simple rhythm of a struggling father and his little girl. Afterward, Emily pulled Daniel aside. "I don't know how to repay you. Last night, I was ready to end everything. And now," she swallowed hard, "now I feel like maybe there's still a place for me in this world." Daniel placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "You don't owe me anything. Just promise me this: when life gets heavy again, don't face it alone. Let someone in. You matter, Emily. Don't forget that." Tears streamed down her face, but this time, they weren't from despair. They were from being seen, truly seen, for the first time. And as she looked at the little girl laughing in the next room, Emily realized something profound. Sometimes the family you need isn't the one you're born into, but the one you find when someone refuses to let you fall.